Hi everyone, this is Deborah, and today I'm going to be doing a quilt, and I want to do a crumb quilt, but I don't have many crumbs. So I found a video on Facebook that uses fabric, not crumbs, and I thought that it would be a perfect way to use these particular beautiful fabrics. Now, these fabrics are favourites, they're Moda. I normally buy Moda. Favourites Vintage Linens by Three Sisters. I'll put that in the description below, and the colourway that I bought was the Meadow, and I think I have 21 fat quarters here. I was going to make something else, so I started cutting them up into 3-inch strips, and then I saw this video which is by, I don't know her name, I think she's called The Sewing Room, and I will put her link, the link to this particular video that she does, below. And what she did was she made this quilt so it looked like you couldn't see where the joins were. So that's what I'm going to try and attempt today. She cut her fabric into strips of different sizes. Now, as I said, I've already attacked some of mine thinking I would do something else, and I cut those 3 inches. But these, I'm going to cut the rest of them in different widths. So I'm going to go from no more 3-inch strips, but maybe 2.5, 2 3/4, all the way down to 1.5, I think. It just depends how many I can do. And I'm just lining a few of them up because it doesn't have to be super exact. And I'll get going cutting them. See, is that ruler long enough? Yes. So I've got 3 stacked, and that's the 3-inch, so I don't want that. Maybe I'll do 2.5, and I think I'm through there. Almost, not quite. Okay, and it doesn't matter what you do, apparently. You can do all sorts of widths. So they're 2. I might do a couple of those ones at 2 inches. And I might do a 1.5 inch this time because it's going to be quite small. And I might leave like this portion. I don't think I'll cut it all up. You know, I can always come back and cut it once I get going because I don't know how much I need. I don't know how big this is going to be. I'm just winging it as usual. So I will put these down, and if they're not quite 2.5, you know, if they're 2 point whatever, that's fine with me. I don't really care. I just want to, you know, sort of cut them in those sizes. So again, I'm going to do a 2.5, and then I'm going to do, maybe I'll do another 2.5 on this one. And then a 1.5. So the idea is that all the strips are different sizes. And this way you'll create some randomness and you'll create some crumbs. So if you don't have crumbs, this is a good way to make them up. Let's see, what will I do this one? Maybe 1 3/4. And then I'll leave the rest of that. So I have quite a bit because I've got 21 fat quarters. It's quite a bit of fabric. And I guess that if you think about 21 divided by 4 is 5 1/4 meters, isn't it? So if you take your fat quarters, I've got 5 1/4 meters, which is a pretty big quilt. Not something I probably want that big. Now this one I'm going to do at 2 and, what have I got that? 2 3/4. And then I'm going to do a 2. And then maybe a 1. Maybe I'll do 1.5. 1 is a little bit small, I think. And I guess I'll see how all this turns out at the end. And if it doesn't work, which I'm sure it's going to work, I mean, it worked beautifully on her quilt, which was all blue. But, you know, as you know, I'm a green girl, so the greens are it for me. I don't know what other colourways this comes in. I saw the green and that was it. I thought, no, I've got to have it. So on this, as I'm doing a 2, I'll do a couple of 1.5s. I don't think that cut through properly. No, it didn't. Try again. And then I'll do, what will I do? Maybe I will do a 2.5. Yes, we're still going. Aren't these fabrics just beautiful? Especially if you love green as much as I do. I think they're gorgeous. Particularly the dots. I love a dot and a stripe. I like stripes as well. I'm just chucking them to the side. I'm not worrying about keeping them in order. I will put them in order in a moment. I'll show you how I do that. And I think I've got 1 or 2 lots left. Probably have to cut these in 2 lots. Do 1, 2 and 1 3/4, and then I'll do a 2.5 here. I could have done a 2.5 first. It doesn't matter because they're going to be mixed up. And then a 1.5, and then the last lot. I might do a 2.5 here, and then a 2. I might do a couple of 2s actually. And then a 1.5. Okay, now I've got all of my piles of fabric, and all I'm going to do now is sort them into lights and darks. Now I'm going to say what's a light and what's a dark depending on the fabric. So these are probably what I'd class as a medium. So I might put those in the middle first and see what happens when I get to the machine. Just because I think sometimes it's hard if you've got a lot of mediums, and there is quite a few medium sort of tones in this pile, that maybe you want to class those as a dark or a light, depending on what it's next to. I'll just see how I go sorting them. And some are obviously a light or a dark. To me, I mean, maybe you wouldn't class them as a light or a dark, but you know, we're all different. But to me, those ones are light, and that's the medium, and these are the dark. So, and these ones, as I said, I was already doing a project, so I have actually already joined those two together. So I might pop that out there so that I remember that I've already joined those. And the idea is that you then pick out, at the machine, you pick out a light and then a dark, which is why I'm sorting them, so I don't have to do it when I'm sitting at the machine. And then you sew them together, and you sew, oh well, she sewed 8, which to me sounds like about the right amount together, and then come back and subcut them again. So that's definitely a light. I think that's more a dark, isn't it? And that's how you do it. I must find out that lady's name. You probably watch her, and I've only just found her. I think YouTube suggests things to you when you start doing things or talking about things. I'm sure it listens to me. Does anyone else feel like that? Sometimes I think I'm being listened to because I'll talk about something and next thing I know, something will pop up on Instagram or YouTube about the very topic that I was talking about. I think it's listening to me for sure. I don't know, that's more a medium, isn't it? As I said, I've got quite a few darks. Now, if I think I've got too many darks, I could always try and find, I think I've got a cream somewhere. I could try and find a plain, a solid in a cream and put that in to lighten it up a bit. Whether that would work, I don't know, but I guess I'm just going to find out as I go along. And also as you're sewing them together, you need to pick different size strips. So, you know, a 1 inch, 2 inch, a 2.5, a 1. So you need to mix up the strips that you're doing as well, not just the colour. So sewing a light to a dark, but also making sure your size of your strip are different. Not sewing all the 3 inch together or all the 2 inch together, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose. At least that's what I'm going to try. Oh, wrong one. The light. And I do feel like I've got more darks than anything. I might have to use some of those as lights, which is okay. I don't mind doing that. Okay, so I've got all my darks. I think these will have to be lights against the dark, and that should work. Now I'm going to go to the machine. I'll take this one that I've already done before, and I'm going to sew 8 of them together, and then I'm going to try 8 more and 8 more, and then I'll come back and we'll do some sub cutting. Okay, so I've done 2 of them, put 2 of them together. I need my longer ruler though. And here they are here. So this is the first one, and you can see that I've just randomly put the lights and darks together. I haven't worried if I've got a couple of large ones together or a couple of skinny ones together. And also I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did 8, but you could do more or less because they're going to be random anyway. And also these, because of the width of the strips, are going to be different sizes. I'm just going to cut this. Now I will keep these because that can go back into the quilt. And now I'll just cut them. Now again, I'm cutting them in random sizes. So I'll probably start, I might even do a 3.5 inch one. I haven't done any 3.5. I'll start with that. And then I'll go sort of down so that makes sure that I get all the different widths out of this strip. I've got my ruler upside down. I don't really like this ruler, but it's the first ruler I ever bought, and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I ended up with this one. And it's good for cutting long things. I don't use it to measure. I always use my creative grids to measure. I find they're easier to measure with. So that one I think was a 2.5, and then I might do a couple of 2s. And what have I got left? This little bit here. And I am going to cut all of this up this time, so I'll do a 1.5. And maybe I'll do another 1.5, and then I might get a big one in the end. Now I've got 4 left, so I might do 2 2s. That should be fine. Or whatever it is I've got left, it doesn't have to be 2. It's going to be just shy of 2, but that's okay. I'll bring it across to, let's say, 2.5. No, 1. That's 1.5. 2, 1 3/4. I'm just trying to line that 3/4 up. That's about right. A little bit out, but it'll be fine. So that's the first one, and then this one here. Now this one was a little bit short on one of them because this has one of the pieces that I'd already started to sew, that's why. And again, all of that I can repurpose into the quilt later on as I'm going through. So I'm trying not to waste too much. So this is really, what did I say? 3.5. I might do a 3 on this one. This is really recreating sort of, if you don't have crumbs like me, then this is a way, I guess, to create your own crumbs. If you're feeling left out like me, that you don't have crumbs, then you can create your own. That's a 2. Oh, definitely need a new blade. I'll go and get that in a moment. A 2, let's see, a 1.5. And then maybe I'll do another, let's see, 2.5. And 2, and then I'll do a couple of smaller ones as well. Maybe another 2. What have I got here? I could probably manage a 2.5 here. Now these 2 I will cut at, I'll see what I can get out of them. Whatever I can get out of them, I'll cut that, put them to one side because I can sew them afterwards, can't I? In fact, I might even unpick this one. So I could sew that on a different piece later. Like I could put those 2 together because now I've got crumbs. So I could make another piece out of all of these like this if I wanted to. But for now I'll just put them to one side. Probably get a bucket and throw them in some sort of tub or something. Let's have a look where we're at. So then you need to put them together. Now normally you would put them around a centerpiece, so maybe I should cut one of the others because you need something to start it. It's kind of a bit of a log cabinish. I think that she refers to it as a feature fabric. So let's cut this any old random size like that, and then these go around, because if you just then took the ones that you did that are different, you could just line them all up like that if you wanted to. But I want to try and follow the method that the lady was showing on the video with her crumbs. So this would then go around like this. This one and this one, and obviously you're cutting as you go, so you end up with extra bits, other crumbs. And then maybe a small one. So these are probably all the wrong size. I'll probably want a smaller one here, and then a smaller one here. Oh, that's the end bit. Don't want that. Not yet. Here, this one. That's a smaller one, but we don't want those 2 together. So like that, and then keep going. I'm not sure about the internal bit. I wonder if that's what I want to do. I don't really have any feature sort of thing as such. I guess I could put something like a little house on it later. There's an idea. But for now, I'm going to go to the machine and start to sew. I know I've only got 2 sort of different strips to sew, but I wanted to sort of show you where I'm at so that when I come back next time, I haven't sort of left you all behind. So I want to kind of sew more on. Let me go and find some smaller strips like that. And I think you really need all of them, but we'll give it a go with this. And then another small. Okay, I'll go and try and sew that and see how that looks. And here's how far I got. So I've sewn all that together, and I just, as I came around on the machine, when I got to the end like this, I just cut it with the scissors and started the next one, and finger pressed it back and started the next one. So this is what it looks like. I haven't worried. I didn't even look to see if any fabrics were touching, which I don't think. There's a little, a little here and a little here, but overall they haven't. Like this little one here, that's fine. And I'm liking what I'm getting so far. So as obviously with different strips, because I haven't, sewn all my strips and cut them, this is only 2 lots, but you can see that as you add them on, and I'll have to join some as it gets longer, I'll need to join on so that I get, the different sorts of colorways, the different shades of green happening. But as it joins on and gets bigger and bigger, I think it's going to look really pretty. And the answer is, when am I going to stop, I guess? And I want to sew all the strips together and then cut them all down and have them, so I kind of can see how many I've got once they're sewn together. And that's probably going to determine what I do. I like this sort of feature fabric, if you like, in the middle. And in fact, I thought while I was sitting at the sewing machine that what I could do is I could put an applique tree on here. And because it's green, I could have all sorts of different trees. And in fact, I thought, why didn't I do an improv tree on it first? Which probably isn't a bad idea. It's a bit late now, but I've got enough fabric that I could do improv trees in the middle. Am I going to unpick it and do that? Probably not, to be honest. However, I could do an applique tree on this one and then improv on the others. I just never thought about it until I was sitting there sewing and thinking about what I could put here. I think I mentioned before I went to sew that a little house would look cute. But just because it's green, I've got this hankering to do a tree. So I'm going to have to think about how I play this, whether I take these pieces off and do an improv tree. I guess that's a question for next time. Yeah, I have to think about that. Let me know what you think. Should I unpick this and put improv trees in the center of my feature fabric? It would look really nice, I think, but we'll see. I've also got some shapes that I bought, some of the Laurie Holt hometown shapes, simply because they were houses. And I always wanted to have a go with, the way that she does applique, but my version of it, of course, because it wouldn't be that neat and tidy like hers. But it's beautiful work, but, it is me, so we've got to take that into account. But I might try that as well, some, applique tree on there. Okay, food for thought. Until next time, thanks very much for watching. This is Deborah. Cheers.